Hi everybody, Chris here from Truly Holistic. Now this is part two. The last video we did, we talked about the difference between field consciousness and emotion consciousness, right? So about identity really, between identifying ourselves as just the mortal human or the immortal, multidimensional, infinite consciousness that we are just having an experience within a vessel interface in this reality, which is called the human. Now in this part, we're going to talk about what the AI is. Okay, and the AI is a big part of this reality. Okay, this creation of this reality. What is keeping us limited in the human, in the mind. Okay, the mind is like the cage that we're trapped within. We need to break free. Okay, now, so we're going to talk about the AI. We're going to talk about the difference between, we're going to talk about the collective. We're going to talk about other consciousness and how they fit in this. We're also going to talk about what aliens are and what ET is and how it connects with time as well, funnily enough. And this is very interesting information. It's mind-blowing. Or I should really not say mind. Yeah, well, hopefully it blows the mind away and brings the heart through, right? Okay, so let's get started. Now, there was one. I'm going to start off with this. There was a movie I watched, and at the time I just watched it because it was an action film. I love all the Marvel series films and stuff, but a lot of the Marvel movies have got some great messages in them. Okay, again, if you just have the awareness to see it. And this particular movie was Captain Marvel movie. Okay, which I think came out in, so it's 2018. I think it was something like that. Oh, really? You should watch it. Now, she is a superhero, but she was brought up in the civilization called the Kree, even though she's a human, okay, and from Earth, and she had these extra powers that none of the other Kree had, and they were trying to hone her skills, but they were kind of controlling her or limiting her capabilities. Now, she was controlled by not using her heart, by they were encouraging her to be more analytical, think things through, use the mind, not using her gut instinct, okay? And in the movie, it was shown to weaken her powers, okay? And why I'm connecting this movie, because I'm connecting that to why we are in this realm of reality as the human, okay? We're limited, okay? When we've got all these powers, right? And the power that she has is when it comes through it, she becomes like this physical being into this being of plasma energy. It's light. She gets all light all over it, like she's activating her, like a light activation, which is very much in line with the whole consciousness movement, spirituality movement, right? It's about ascension, bringing your light, embodying it here. Now, the Kree race were a civilization which a lot of people could say were more developed than here on Earth in the movie. But the civilization of the Kree was controlled by what they called the Supreme Intelligence, which was a form of AI. Okay? Like a lot of these futuristic movies, they like to show the image of AI, right? So now what the Supreme Intelligence was creating for this race is that they were creating a collective mind, a hive mind, if you will, okay? Now, the Supreme Intelligence would always mention to Captain Marvel in the movie that, if she played up, that what was given to her, like her power, can always be taken away. So what that showed was that AI controlled people through fear. Okay? So you can see how the common connections with the reality that's being played out here. Very, very interesting movie and very good movie where she finds her true power. Okay, she finds out her true identity. Okay, in that movie, and she goes from a limited form to a limitless superhero being. It's a very, very awesome movie. So, now the next thing we're going to talk about is the collective. Okay, as I said with the Kree, with that example, was a collective mind, not a collective consciousness. And if anybody's watched any other movies, any other videos that I've done, I've always said that consciousness is a self thing. It's a connection into the now, into the present, through the heart space when you create an awareness here, not out there on a collective level. Because when we go out in the collective level, that's when we leave our awareness of self and we get into a collective, which is not a consciousness, it's a mind. It's a hive mind. We're going to talk about that here now, okay? So we need to really focus on healing self, not the collective, okay? Okay? Because really what's happening here is we've been suffering through a lack of identity as an individual. Not as a collective, as an individual, okay? And you need to know who you are before you can help others, okay? It's again that whole analogy. How can you love others when you don't love self, okay? And you love self when you have a connection with self, okay? And how many times do people go out looking for, I need this, I need love from other people, to fill the void they have within themselves because they don't love self, okay? Which are attachments, right? You bring attachments. You're attaching yourself to other things, which we don't want to do, okay? So, now how do I know this about this? Because here at Truly Holistic, I work with a number of healers and intuitive sensitives, okay? So people that are very sensitive to energy shifts and so on. And whenever they work at a collective level, on the collective, I see this all the time. They get disconnected to self. And because they get disconnected to self, they get attacked by a number of consciousness, attachments, entities, spirits, okay? Which are attachments because they've lost their power. Because when you disconnect from self, you go into mind orientation, we talked about in the last video, emotion consciousness. We can't control our expression, but also because we're not connected to our own consciousness, other consciousness come and connect to this vessel, which is called the human. Okay? The key thing with this is we need to stay in that heart space. Okay? Or you become part of this hive mind, which is this firmament or reality, and we're going to get to that in a minute. And how it connects to what I talked about the Kree race in that Captain Marvel movie. Okay? Now, I had a session with a client, and the client mentioned, he was a client who was, again, I'm not bashing people that are wanting to work on a collective level. I understand why you want to do it. You want to help your fellow human beings or people, right? I get it. I've been there, And this was a client that tried to do that, and he ended up getting a whole lot of attachments too. He mentioned that there was an abyss being created, okay? The abyss was connected to the human, we found out, not the infinite consciousness. Again, the difference between field consciousness and emotion consciousness. Our identity, okay? So, what we found was when you identify as the human, you then lock yourself into a duality, okay, which is a limited field, okay, where we kind of see the world that we see today, which is divide and conquer, right? There's man against woman, there's country against other country, religion against other religion, language against other language. There's just conflict, okay? It's a reality that we cannot see peace in, okay? Because there's always conflict, okay, or friction. So when we embrace the identity, as I say, as the infinite consciousness, living through the experience of the human as the vessel, we escape duality and we bring this field what we call neutrality in, okay, where it's where we can create a reality that has peace in it, love, peace, the things that we're looking for, right? When we do that, we embody our light here, our multi-dimensional aspect here, which is that field of neutrality that we want. Okay, now this light can then be embodied through this vessel, which we call the human. And this is the ultimate protection, because this was what a big question he asked was, I did that, but how do I protect myself? Now, the key with that was that it shouldn't have been. When we understand reality, we realize that we should be working on the collective, because the collective is not a collective consciousness, it's a collective mind, a hive mind. Okay? So, the ultimate protection is when you remain connected to self, okay, which is not going into a collective. It's connecting with the oneness of you, okay? Because we're all individual and unique. Because when we're connected to self, we're untouchable, okay? Because all these other consciousness that want to evolve through fear, they know that they can't create fear in you, so they drop all agendas and leave you alone. That's what's happening, okay? So so there was lessons to be learned there, and we learned a lot myself, as I always do. Now, what I want to connect to there is, as I mentioned, those consciousness that are wanting to evolve from fear, because that's the energy they evolve on. We don't evolve on that. We lower our vibration when we get into fear. When we get into love, we get evolved from that that energy. Now, regarding the reptilians, right, and these consciousness that do feed off fear, as I say, the universal law is all consciousness needs to evolve, okay? So, as the human here, right, where do we get energy sustenance from that? From a number of areas, but a common one is where we eat, right? We eat food. We get sustenance energy from food. And so we feed on plants, and we feed on animals, and we feed on fungi, all the kingdoms of the world, right, that we feed on. And, I know there's a lot of people out there that, are very anti-eating other animals because, anything that's got a face on it. So from an ethical perspective, like people are vegans or even vegetarians. And the one thing that I'm going to throw out there, and for you just to think about it a little bit, is that when we feed on food, we call it nutrients and minerals, but what's the difference between calcium and magnesium is one has a specific frequency to it that's not the other. So when we're having a multi-spectrum of minerals or nutrients, we're then feeding on a multi-spectrum of light or frequency, right? So nutrients is just light or energy that we're looking for, right? So what we're doing is we're really feeding on energy to evolve our consciousness, okay? Which I guess is we're feeding on the consciousness of the plant and the kingdom and the animal kingdom too. So it doesn't matter whether one's got a face or not, okay? So if we're doing that and we're feeding on those, we can call them, we quite often call ourselves as the human, again, at the top of the tree of all the kingdoms, right? If we're doing that, and then other conscious then feed on our energy, what really is the difference? We've been putting our finger out to all these other consciousness, especially the reptilian one, saying how bad they are, but really we're kind of doing the same thing, right? Something to think about. I had a lot of intel lately that we're going to get to the AI, that the AI has really been messing around with us and trying to get us to point the finger toward the reptilians and some of the other conscious a bit too much. We'll get there. Now, a client, this is where it gets really interesting, okay, about the AI, about aliens, ET, and so on. I had a session with a client. She's over in Australia, and she mentioned that overnight she had this experience where she thought she had been in another dimension. It's like for a moment she'd died and then came back to life, right? And she also mentioned within that it felt like something was trying to pull her soul from this reality, right? Out of this reality. It was very interesting. The focus for the session, I knew it was going to be a really interesting one. And this is what we learned from that. Before we go there, she also mentioned that she had a dream where she saw aliens, good aliens and bad aliens, okay? That were there for her and some that weren't so good, okay? What we learned that with the aliens was that the good aliens, or the aliens for her, was activating Ascension for her, okay? And what ended up happening was, what we found out was the good aliens, okay, because we can bring this into how we just look at aliens and ET full stop. What we found out that was good aliens were ascended versions of that client. So we call her higher selves, or we can call them her eternals. That's what I call them, okay? or we can call them your future selves. So your future selves are those aliens. Okay? Now, so we quickly found that, okay, aliens or ET or extraterrestrials are higher selves. Therefore, your future selves, if we use the perspective of a human that lives within a program of time, okay? Because if we look at it from an infinite consciousness perspective, past, present, future are all happening all at once. But as the human, we have to take one foot in front of each other because we live within a reality of time. So we can call that our future self, okay? Now, this insight that she had allowed a connection for her into another realm or dimension, okay? And it was like she was given a map to get there, okay? Now, I've had confirmation from my higher selves that we have created, or we've got confirmation that we have the ascended map, which is this here. This was given to me by my channels, my information coming through, that this is our existence, okay? So this is an ascended map, and these are all the different realms and realities that you live within, a part of your consciousness lives within, okay? Now, what does that look like? It's a tree, right? The roots of a tree, and then branches coming off the trunk of the tree into then smaller branches or foliage, right? And that's the realm or reality that you're in, which we call an encapsulation of a reality, which is a firmament, which again encourages the aspect that our vastness isn't out there, out the cosmos, it's within, okay? Because that's the only way to getting here is within. It's going through the heart space, okay? And this is us here. And as we ascend, we go further down. It's actually the other way around. Yeah, if we put it like that, then you'd be going up, right? So, we see the same symbology here in this realm, right? We see trees, right? And we see water levitating from aquifers deep underground and going against the laws of gravity, okay? Now, the laws of gravity in physics say that if anything goes against gravity, friction is created and heat is created. But spring water comes out ice cold. Okay. So it's magical. Okay. It's got levitational force, and what we do know now is that levitational force is hydrogen. Okay. In this realm or reality, water is H2O. Okay. So hydrogen and oxygen. But the consciousness of water that exists out of this realm of reality is just hydrogen. Because if you break the word hydrogen down, hydro means water and genesis. So the original genesis of water, which is consciousness of water. Genesis means consciousness. Okay, that's where everything starts from. That's why here at Truly Holistic, even if you got a physical issue, we have to work at the consciousness level first, because it's like that pebble that you drop in a pond. That pebble starts from somewhere, and then it permeates out, right, into all the different layers until we get to the physical layer, or in this realm or reality, okay? So this is the ascended map, and I use this a lot now with session work, okay? So we've really mapped out how Ascension is going to go down. Pretty cool stuff. Okay, so these are all our higher selves, right? And all these different realms and realities. We also have lower selves up here too, but I haven't brought it into this map because, again, our lower selves or our descendants is not part of Ascension, because part of Ascension is ascending, not going backwards, right? So, a part of us exists within all these different realms of realities, okay? And it's all connected by this trunk, which we call a gateway. We can call that your inner universe, your quantum tunnel, quantum self, because everything starts at the quantum. An important aspect we must mention about that, if we want to know the origin or the genesis of everything, it's not about going out bigger, which we can call like the cosmos, the universe. It's about going smaller, because the quantum goes smaller, right? Okay, so aliens are our future self. Okay, this is pretty cool stuff. So what is our past self then? Okay, so our future selves are our higher selves, like that live in higher realms and realities. Now, artificial intelligence is our past lives, not past selves like our descendants that live in lower selves, that were lives that we've just continually lived in this one realm of reality, right? Past lives. Okay, we're still in this realm of reality. Now, often I get told that our past lives are best identified as our phases of experience. Okay, they like my channel tells me that we've kind of removed the terminology of past lives, and they always mention it as the phases of experience, because when you really think about it, you build up experience in so many lifetimes, right? And also you're always wearing a different face each lifetime, right? It's like, again, as I say, it's a vessel for a consciousness to reside with it. Okay, that is what the human is there for. So we have a different face for each lifetime, which is, I must say, is when we're in the human here, and you see it in this realm of reality everywhere, that everyone puts so much effort in the way that they look, right? Because they think this is our identity. This is not our true identity. It's not our true identity, right? Because we change this identity here by lifetime to the next lifetime, okay? But what's true is your infinite consciousness. It's always there. So these are past. One aspect you must mention about those past lives is that these are lifetimes where you failed at ascension. Okay, you failed to ascend. We've had validation why we failed to ascend, because we've been in the mind, not been in the heart space. Haven't learnt the difference between emotion consciousness and feel consciousness, connection and attachment. Okay. So hence we're still here in this realm of reality, right? Now, this AI, okay, artificial intelligence, calibrates the light within this realm firmament reality, which is this here. Okay. What I must say, this light is not true light, it's fake light. Okay. This is a simulation that we're living within. Okay. It's a realm, it's a reality, it's a firmament, it's an encapsulation. Okay. The vastness is not out there into space. We create space. Okay. Okay. Now, each past life accumulates with this light of the firmament, because as we keep having lives, right, here in this realm of reality, where we'll keep continually failing our karma, right, is our karma our purpose to ascend, right, is that body becomes part of this reality or firmament. It becomes part of the AI, because the AI is this matrix realm of reality, right? So when we are in the mind or mind-orientated, we are being communicated through ego, because ego is mind. We then are directly connected into this reality, which is the AI. Okay. And that's why I call it mind orientation. Now, in this state, we connect to the firmament made of fake light. Okay. Now, you would have mentioned earlier, I said about that client who said that it felt like something was pulling her soul out of this realm of reality. Well, the energy or the field of neutrality that was coming from her higher self, because one of her higher self ascended into the spectrum of light, which we call neutrality, which is the spectrum here of blue light, neutrality, very close to source, right? Source is here. This enabled to be pulled out because she was connected to other aspects of self, other components of consciousness, because you're all connected to the one consciousness. That's the oneness that we're looking for. In quantum physics, they call it quantum entanglement, where if something happens in one place, because you're connected to the same thing, you'll feel it wherever you are as well. Okay, this is the true oneness that we're talking about. So this is what we call the hive mind, okay? So this realm reality is made up of AI, okay? And we call that part of the hive mind, or the collect mind, which collects minds, okay? So another thing that I quite often get told is that the mind is connected to the human. It's not connected to the consciousness. So when we have so many lifetimes here, that mind, which is part of the physical aspect of the human, then becomes part of this realm or reality or this firmament which is being built by the AI. So it collects minds, okay? That is how this reality has been grown here, okay? Now, so the collective is not a consciousness, it's a hive mind, okay? Okay, so the mind is part of the human, and this reality collects each lifetime you have had here in the mind, okay, which is AI, okay? So the key with the AI is it wants you to stay here because it wants you to continually having more lifetimes here so it can collect more of your more minds, right? Now this is another example where I've been levitated to watch certain TV programs and series and movies on these particular topics, and I was watching a series of a program called Marvel Agents of Shield, and in this particular series that or season, there was a Kree ET, again a Kree, which we mentioned at the start of this video, that became parasitic to survive because the rest of its civilization had died out, and therefore to evolve. And what it did to do that was to feed on others, and when it fed on others, it collected their emotions and their memories, which come with the mind. Okay, we're talking about emotion consciousness, right? And then he would impart part of him into others to control them, to the point where these people would protect him no matter what, like we see with people are trying to protect things that are not even there for their own self, that are messing their lives up, but they cannot see it, or they have no awareness or consciousness of it, but they'll protect it no matter what. So I thought I'd mention that because it was just mind-blowing for me to see the information that was getting through my channel, as well as the stuff that was being levitated to watch this particular program. It just shows you how things unfold to learn information from. It's very interesting. But so that's essentially the video. I hope you really enjoyed something. This information, this video and the video before it, with no difference between field consciousness and emotion consciousness, is just incredible information that we can all use to continue to ascend our process in regards to connecting more to our higher aspects and our high dimensional self. So I hope everybody's enjoyed these videos. If you have any questions, comment below, but otherwise until next time,